Hi, I'm Dr. Geoffrey Grammer. I'm a retired Army colonel and psychiatrist. I want to make a video about who I believe is behind the assault on our country under the Trump administration. Things seem to be getting worse by the day. Following the deployment of the Marines to Los Angeles, we now have the National Guard patrolling the District of Columbia. And soon, Trump will try to send the National Guard to 19 blue states. This autocratic revolution has been very meticulous and detailed. And one of the questions that keeps coming up is, who's behind this? Different names have been raised, such as Stephen Miller or Vladimir Putin, maybe even Steve Bannon. However, the person I think most likely to be responsible for this is a gentleman by the name of Kevin Roberts, the current president of the Heritage Foundation. He's also the driving force behind Project 2025. So let's start by discussing the Heritage Foundation. It was founded in 1973 to counterbalance what its founders saw as left-leaning liberal institutions, such as the Brookings Institute. Heritage's breakthrough came in 1980 when it delivered a thick binder called the Mandate for Leadership to Ronald Reagan's transition team. And inside was a step-by-step conservative policy agenda. By some accounts, the Reagan administration adopted nearly 2/3 of those recommendations. And from that point on, Heritage wasn't just another think tank. It was actually the intellectual engine of the American right. So who is Kevin Roberts? Well, Kevin was born in Louisiana in 1974, and he's trained as a historian, earning a PhD from the University of Texas. Go figure. His early career was in Catholic education, and he founded a K-12 academy in Lafayette. And then he became the president of Wyoming Catholic College, known for rejecting federal student aid in the name of religious liberty. Roberts shifted into policy in 2016, joining the Texas Public Policy Foundation, a group that has had enormous influence over Texas governance, from energy deregulation to school vouchers. Within a few years, Roberts became the CEO. By 2021, the Heritage Foundation picked him to succeed Kay Cole James as president. In 2023, he also became the president of Heritage Action for America, a political advocacy organization. And that means Roberts isn't just setting Heritage's research agenda, he's also steering how that research is turned into legislation, lobbying, and political campaign. How has Heritage changed under his leadership? Well, traditionally, Heritage was policy-focused, focusing on issues such as tax reform, military spending, and deregulation. It was conservative, yes, but it had historically played within the boundaries of traditional politics. But Roberts wasn't satisfied, and he shifted Heritage towards a movement of conservatism, but with teeth. It wasn't just about writing reports anymore. Roberts called this effort a, quote, second American revolution. So when Trump was elected, it wasn't just his opportunity to institute policy, it was his opportunity to overthrow the government as we've known it. And his tone has been sharper and his goals are more radical than what Heritage had ever been in the past. You see, Roberts wants Heritage to direct the government. We've all heard of Project 2025. It's a lengthy policy book featuring over 100 different organizations that contributed to its creation, all coordinated by Heritage. The goal was to help direct the next Republican president, and in this case Donald Trump, with a ready-made plan for the first 180 days in office. And it had 4 main components. The first is the policy book. This has plans for everything from education to healthcare, immigration, climate, foreign policy, and much more. And the tone is completely uncompromising, calling for the dismantling of numerous government agencies and projects. The second part is the personnel database, a kind of LinkedIn for conservatives. It screens and catalogs thousands of loyal conservative professionals who can then be installed into federal jobs. This is how you take out the nonpartisan federal workforce and replace them with loyal acolytes of the figurehead, in which case this is Donald Trump. The third part is training programs. These were boot camps for would-be political appointees, teaching them how to move fast to dismantle what they see as bureaucracy and implement the priorities of Christian conservatism. And the fourth part of this plan is the executive playbook, which provides a step-by-step instruction on how to consolidate executive power and utilize executive orders aggressively, including how to fire civil servants and sidestep congressional resistance. This takes the three separate but equal branches of government and it puts it all under the power of the executive. Is it unconstitutional? Well, you bet. But by playing the long game to remove the checks and balances, Trump is getting away with it and is moving us towards a Christian-based autocracy. And their version for America is radically different from that of most Americans. They've done this in plain sight, and somehow that has allowed them to stay under the radar with some weird norm violation effect. Roberts laid out this philosophy in speeches as well as his 2024 book called Dawn's Early Light, which used to have a much more dire title, and go look that up. In it, he argues that many American institutions are just hopelessly corrupted. The FBI, New York Times, Ivy Leagues, and philanthropy organizations, he says, are all compromised with liberal elites. And his solution isn't about reform. It's about destruction and rebirth. He wants to tear down these institutions and rebuild them according to Christian conservative values. He wants the president to have wide latitude to basically do whatever he wants, including directing agencies, controlling personnel, and to define cultural norms. Think about that. A central executive branch to define cultural norms. There's no freedom with that. It's a government as an instrument for cultural restoration rooted in Christianity, nationalism, and loyalty. That does not sound like the America that we know, and this is a threat to our democracy. These events that have been happening since Trump took office have been in planning and preparation for years. Trump was just a willing vessel for Kevin Roberts' agenda because Trump so craves power that he's willing to ride whatever wave gets him there, with little regard for any sense of ideology or morality. But unfortunately, this version of America will infringe upon civil rights for most of us. How's it do this? Well, Roberts wants to weaken other branches of government by essentially diluting the judiciary and nullifying the legislative branch. We've seen Mike Johnson just being all too willing to do exactly that, as well as a Supreme Court, which has been incredibly compromised. In the past, our civil service force could withstand differences in political winds by having some political neutrality. That's not Roberts' vision. He wants to replace career civil servants and experts with partisan loyalists, politicizing agencies such as the Justice and Defense Departments and even the Census Bureau, so that they are loyal to the president rather than to the Constitution or our country. And Roberts does not believe in pluralism. What he wants is to narrow America's identity to a single religion and a single set of cultural values, leaving little room for dissent, diversity, or minority rights. That's why there's been such an attack on DEI. Roberts also wants to move around the rules of law by essentially teaching appointees in those boot camps how to skirt these norms and turn agencies into tools of political punishment. And we just saw this with John Bolton's house getting raided for his 2020 book. And let me be clear, John Bolton got permission from the federal government to publish his book. It was Donald Trump who decided to investigate him because Bolton made the terrible mistake of criticizing the Trump administration. And that sort of weaponization of the federal government is part of the Roberts plan. So don't be fooled. This isn't some Trumpian wizardry. This is because of Roberts and the Heritage Foundation. That's who's pulling the strings. He wants America to burn down our old government and replace it with an elected authoritarianism, with guaranteed victory for whomever espouses white Christian values at the expense of all other persons. This symbolic election with the victor guaranteed beforehand is how Russia does it. Remember when Donald Trump said, "My dear Christians, vote this time, just this time. If you vote this time, you'll never have to vote again." This is what he was talking about. Unless we know who the true enemy is, it is difficult to fight and stop this revolution. So I would encourage you to look into the Heritage Foundation and look into Kevin Roberts and his self-declared bloodless revolution. We know their roadmap. And we know their battle plan. We should start being proactive in thwarting this corrupted vision for America. If you believe that all people are created equal and should be entitled to happiness, health, and prosperity, then pay attention to the Heritage Foundation and its leader, Kevin Roberts. Let's get the word out. They've been hiding in plain sight, and it is time to call them out for their frightening vision for America. Please like, subscribe, and share, and let's get this word out. Thank you.